Fam, it's Monday, July 16, 2018. I love you guys. I look forward to seeing you this evening. I really enjoyed our long weekend we had together, the hiking and just the video games and watching you write your little stories, Henry. And I really enjoyed the time we got to spend together this weekend. It was nice and relaxing, and it's our home is beginning to get back to a normal pace of things. And just want to remind you all, Kelly, Madeline, Henry, and Samuel, and myself as well, that we need to fill the time with things that honor the Lord, and not with lazy, sluggardly behaviors and attitudes. We need to make the best use of our time because the days are evil. And so my encouragement to you today is to set your mind on the things above and to seek God's will for your life today. Think of the Lord's Prayer. When we pray the Lord's Prayer, we say, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." And so I encourage you to seek our Father's will today. Children, don't forget your chores this morning. Make that a priority. Get those things done. Um, and just be diligent in your schoolwork today. And when you're done with all your work, then play hard too. Don't forget to have fun today and enjoy this day that God has given you. This morning we're looking at Job chapter 10. The title of it in my Bible is Job despairs of God's dealings. And what we see here is Job beginning to question God. And what the verse I want to look at here is starting verse 8. Really 8, 9, and 10. It says this: "Your hands fashioned and made me altogether, and would you destroy me? Remember now that you have made me as clay, and would you turn me into dust again? Did you not pour me out like milk and curdle me like cheese?" And continuing on with verse 11, "Clothe me with skin and flesh and knit me together with bones and sinews. You have granted me life and loving kindness, and your care has preserved my spirit. Yet these things you have concealed in your heart. I know that this is written within you." So we see Job essentially asking God and stating to God, "You made me, and then you would turn around and turn me back to dust." And this reminds me of a verse, a little quick passage we find over in Romans chapter 9, starting with verse 19. Starting with verse 18. It says, "So then he has mercy on whom he desires, and he hardens whom he desires. You will say to me then, why does he still find fault? For who resists his will? On the contrary, who are you, O man, who answers back to God? The thing molded will not say to the molder, why did you make me like this? Will it? Or does not the potter have a right over the clay to make from the same lump one vessel for honorable use and another for common use?" Does this not sound similar? This complaint that Job has to God, does it not sound like he is the clay questioning the potter and the will of the potter? It kind of sounds like that to me. And so that's something that we need to be mindful of when we go through hardships and trials and tribulations. This tendency we have as humans to say, "Oh, woe is me. God must not love me now. I'm going through this hard time. God made me this way. God made me who I am, and now He's going to turn around and afflict me for it." And when we start to question God in that way, it becomes really arrogant on our part, because we need to keep in mind, we need to remember that God, He's not only the potter. He doesn't only shape the clay, but He also made the clay. He made the stuff that the clay is made out of, and His will be done. He hardens whom He hardens, and He softens the heart of whom He'll soften. And so we need to be very careful when we start questioning God, and especially if we are in sin, and we're feeling the ramifications of our sin. Here's the thing: God didn't make you sinful. That comes from your own heart. And so we need to be very careful when we start questioning God in these kind of circumstances. And if we are His children and we are going through trials and tribulations, this is kind of your mother and I were speaking last night. This probably is our if we have such a thing as a life verse. You've heard people maybe saying, "Well, that's my life verse," or "That's my favorite verse." Well, our life verse is Romans. It's found in Romans 8, and it's the verse that says, "All things work together for the good of those who are the called, those who love God, who are called according to His purpose." You familiar with that verse? When we're going through trials and tribulations, that's what we need to remember. That's what we need to keep in mind, is that we are sinners. God does harden the hearts of whom He hardens, and He softens people's hearts as well. And trials and tribulations, when the believer, when the child of God experiences trials and tribulations, they're actually meant for our good. They're meant as discipline and correction. That's what those trials are doing, and it's in the end, it's to conform us into the image of His Son Jesus. Now, there's times when we as sinners, we do experience pain and suffering as a result of our sin, and that's, if you're a believer and you sin and you're experiencing that, then that is correction. But a lot of times, lost people, they're just going from one heartache, one painful experience to another, because that's what sin does. The wages of sin is death. There's nothing at the end. Sin, on the front end of sin, it always seems kind of glamorous and enticing, and it looks like sin oftentimes on the front end looks like something that's to be desired, and you want to reach out and grab it, and it looks pleasurable and delightful. But at the end, sin always leads to ruin and heartache and misery. We don't have to look far in this world to see that truth. So as this morning, as you read through Job 10, just consider all the ways that Job is questioning God here. And, the reality is we can probably see ourselves in this quite a bit today, because don't we often do that? We often question God. Why is this happening? Why me? And when oftentimes as His children, we need, even for the tribulations and trials we go through, we need to be thanking Him, because it's for our good. and that's hard to remember sometimes in the middle of suffering. But I pray that you have a good day today, family. That you love one another, and God willing, I look forward to seeing you this evening. I'll talk to you guys later. I love you all. Bye bye.